this. And today we want to discuss how is it you define the right team. You know, we have all these people in our office, they work for us year after year after year. And how do we know that we've got a team that's working cohesively together to give us the result that we want? And I've had experience for 2 decades now working with offices, and you see really great offices. You see teams that are just clicking together, and they just match the value of the doctor.
Yeah.
And then I go into what I refer to as a train wreck.
Yeah.
And you know, the doctor's thinking one way, and the team's just going a different way because that's how they did it in a different office, or you know, they're just watching the clock from 9 to 5, as I call them. And those are the type of scenarios, and some of you may experience that, where you're scratching your head at the end of the day going, how do I get these guys to understand me and to get on track with where it is I want to go?
Yeah, that happens a lot. I think a lot of doctors find themselves frustrated because they feel like their team, their staff, is doing stuff that they brought in from the other office, from a different location, from a different dentist. And so everybody's kind of doing their own thing, and they're not doing what you want them to do. They're doing just what they know. They do what they know. So
Aggie, you've had this experience. You've gone through numerous people to get the right team in place to deliver the kind of dentistry and the quality of dentistry that you want. How is it you know when you've got that team? How do you know when you've got that quality, functioning group of people that believe in what you're doing, sell what you're doing, and enjoy every day of being at work?
So you're kind of really defining culture, right? Any business, any corporation, any small business or large business has a culture. And what a culture is basically a group of people with common beliefs or common vision. And you have different types of leaders, and some leaders are more extroverted or more introverted. You can have a different type of person leading a team. But they all have one thing in common. In really good businesses where everybody works cohesively together, everybody knows what the leader's vision is. And the trick is to define what it is that you believe in, and then get people on your bus that believe in your vision. So everybody is driving in the same direction. So it comes down to why you're doing what you're doing, not what you're doing. So we're not about fixing teeth or doing veneers. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is it that you're really trying to accomplish at the end of the day, at the end of the year, at the end of the decade? And getting the people that really cohesively mesh with you, with your belief system. So, you know, we're kind of talking higher level when it comes to hiring. And I think it's hard when you're hiring people when you don't know who they are. And there's a bit of a, you know, learning curve and testing.
The dating phase.
And it's like any relationship, right? You got to date people in order to get to know whether or not they have your core belief systems at heart. And so I think that is probably a challenge for a lot of doctors who really don't have a lot of experience in how to date.
Right. Well, you sort of touched on that because, you know, we've all said it before that we spend hours together like we're part of a family. And when you walk in, I've used this example with teams before, when you walk into a party and the family's fighting, you can sense something's wrong. And from the patient perspective, how do you want the patient to perceive that you've got the right team in place?
I think patients always sense when there's an issue, right? I think that, I mean, I've had situations where somebody's pissy at me or is having a bad day or right? Never. Or there's turmoil at home and they bring it to the office. And I truly believe that patients can sense every level of anxiety between us or any kind of an issue between us. Yeah. So, you know, that's always a challenge because we're human beings and, you know, life isn't simple, and sometimes you have things happening at home that you can't take out of your mind when you're working. But it's really, really important that people work together in order to create a certain atmosphere. So having systems in terms of how things should turn out. So having the same experience in a patient appointment, having the same kind of conversation, so role-playing what is supposed to happen and how it's supposed to happen. The other thing that I truly believe, for me, one of my big key core values is teamwork. And anybody who's ever worked with me will say that working with me is either the best thing ever or the hardest thing ever, because Right, you've experienced it, and a lot of team members that work with me will probably stay with me for life, and then others are like run the other way really fast. Because I'm really hard on people in terms of my expectations, and for me, the key
But you're hard on them to grow them, right? You're hard on them to
either make you or break you, right? So, and I think I've broken a number of people.
And you've made a number of people because I've seen these people.
That's probably true, and I think that, I remember hearing a story, and I think it was Simon Sinek who said that he was talking about the animal kingdom and why certain animal groups survive and other ones get eaten by lions.
Right.
And he's talking about 4 oxen that stand tail to tail together. There's a lion trying to come around and eat them, but everywhere he goes, there is horns, so he can't get to them because there's horns facing him from every direction. But after a while, the oxen get into an argument, and he did this and she did that, and she didn't stay late to help me, and he didn't take my patient or help me clean the room when I was running behind. And so the oxen, one by one, decide to leave, right? So they start to wander off, and they all get eaten alive, one after another, until they're all gone. And so for me, that story really hit home, because I do believe that we have to protect each other first. We work together and we form a circle, and if I can protect my team and my team can protect me, then we will take over the world. But as soon as there's any kind of animosity, or he did this or she did that, then that's when problems arise. So for me, culture is based on the number one feeling of safety in the office.
I've known you for forever, and I've known that you've taken great time and care to build a team that's cohesive and matches your vision. But along that road, there's always issues that you're experiencing, and I know these other docs out there are experiencing issues on how to get that cohesiveness together. So what are some of the issues from the doctor's perspective that you see on a daily basis when you're trying to create that diamond practice, that diamond team?
So I think the most common one I've seen when I'm trying to create the culture that I believe in is every now and then we'll get somebody in the office that's new, and I always explain what teamwork is, and I always kind of explain what we believe in and how we work together and how we help each other and how we stay to help each other out. And every now and then we'll get somebody that they're all only out for themselves, and so they as soon as they're done their day, they put their coat on and they leave. And it doesn't matter if, exactly. Punch the clock kind of thing. And as much as I understand that we all have lives and children and things to do, your team is really, really important. And those little movements or those little actions really, really sit and simmer. And when it comes time to having your back, it's not going to happen. So that's the one thing that, especially new people, that I really, really look for. If there's a piece of garbage on the floor, and if you walk by it, I know it's over because you didn't pick it up. So just really taking an ownership part in the office, that is kind of key. And you can't teach that. People either have it or they don't have it. But I can teach you systems. I can teach you how to present treatment. I can teach you how to, take the patient through the 7 screenings. I can teach you all kinds of things. I cannot teach you how to have somebody's back when shit hits the fan.
You can't teach personality.
No.
You can't teach quality.
No.
Right? So what's interesting is you've identified a lot of the problems that we face in the culture. Mm-hmm. So what is it that you've done in your office over the years to shift that culture so that it's a positive working environment, so these people do believe in who it is who you are, for lack of a better word, and what it is you're trying to give to your community?
I think the biggest thing comes down to being very clear on your vision and who you are. So if you're the kind of dentist that hasn't defined what you want to accomplish or what you believe in, then it's going to be really hard for your staff to do what you want because you haven't really defined it. It's like if I tell you to go look something up on Google and you're going to go, well, what do you want me to look up? Right? You don't know because you haven't defined it. But if I tell you to go look up how to do veneers, then that gives you more defined search, right? So you want to be very clear as to what you believe in, what your vision is, what your deal breakers are. Like, what is it that you will not tolerate? Because everybody has different deal breakers. And the other thing is that making sure that you live it. Because if you live it, so for example, if my deal breaker is that you cannot have sex with my patients, then as soon as you do,
has this ever happened to you, Dr. Miss?
you're out. So
Right.
as long as
she's just being diplomatic.
as long as our team is always living that, then as soon as a new person comes in, I don't even have to say anything. They will warn them, don't do this or don't do that, or make sure you do this, or make sure that we're a team, we work together. So I think as long as you live something 100%, your team will educate the next people that are going to join this culture.
Yeah. You know, some people would say that you're a really tough cookie and you have high expectations, but I think, and for all you docs out there, if you're trying to build something that's sustainable and that the public is going to appreciate the quality of dentistry that you're doing and the quality of customer care, you have to set an expectation higher than the dentist down the street. And maybe you could give me 1, 2, or 3 things that you've done that have really defined the culture in your office that puts you, I know we don't want to say that we're better or above, but what is it that separates you from somebody else in our industry? And what can our audience learn to help separate them?
So that's an interesting question. I think there's a couple of things that I've done that are just popping in my head. Number one is I've always lived very clearly. So, you know, I keep going back to defining your vision. I'm very clear in terms of what I want and what I believe in. And that's kind of one of those things that if you can communicate to your team, to your staff, to your patients, people buy what you believe in. And if they don't believe in that, they'll leave you, and that's fine. Like for me, if I lose a patient because they want to work on a deal basis or, you know, they want discounts, it's just not going to work in my practice. So, you know, somebody like that, I would rather get rid of right away than sit there and suffer and play along for a couple of years. So because I'm very, very clear on what I believe in, it's really easy for people to either be very drawn to me or very basically run away from me really quickly. And that goes for staff and for patients.
Yeah, for patients, absolutely.
The other thing, I spent a lot of time developing, I guess you want to call it character. It's kind of like raising children, right? I mean, you know, you always amplify the good qualities in your kids, and you sometimes just kind of like, oh, don't worry about it. Billy doesn't do well in math, but let's focus on all the things Billy does well. Right. And so one of the things we do in our office is once a year we spend a lot of time redefining who people are. So we do the personality tests, and we talk about their strengths and weaknesses, and we really ramp up the strengths. So we'll spend time focusing on what people are good at and really make sure that they're flourishing in the office. And then really working on pumping that up. So I won't dwell on somebody's weaknesses, but I will definitely, if somebody has a strength in, say, organizing or, you know, sales or whatever, I'll make sure that person shines and is given more opportunities to do those things. Yeah.
As well, right?
So, yeah.
So, guys, here's the thing. Culture, it's a cliche word. It's something that we deal with on a daily basis. I think Dr. Miss has really defined how to take the culture in your office from, you know, good to great, great to excellent to extraordinary. And, you know, on House of Crowns, we always reach out to you to say, what is your call to action tomorrow that you're going to do when you go back in your office to maybe shift the thinking, shift the culture. You've got some great information from Agatha today on how she's done it and perfected the diamond practice. So comment below, because it gives us things to talk about and share with you in the future. How's it that you're going to shift the culture in your office? And what are the things you're willing to do to take your office to the next level from a cultural perspective?
And yeah, and I think I would love to hear from you. What are some of your challenges and struggles on that topic as well? Because we've talked to a lot of doctors about this problem. And I feel like there's kind of a common theme in terms of people struggling with their team and going like, how can I get my team to do this? You know, and I'd love to hear from you what your challenges are, because we have so many ideas on, you know, how to help you, but we'd love to know what your specific thing is. So in the comment section,
you're not alone, because your problems are not exclusive to you, right?
Yeah, we hear so many stories all the time. So definitely drop us a comment below, and we'd love to hear from you and engage with you, and maybe you know, have you involved in the next episode.
Yeah, great.
Of House of Crowns.
We look forward to seeing you on the next episode of House of Crowns.
Thanks for joining us.